Live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The sky is a beautiful shade of blue and the sun is shining in one of the most beautiful countries in the world, South Africa. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful safari in the afternoon. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope that you're all going to enjoy it with us. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and it's a special warm welcome to the schools that are joining us this afternoon. So, Courthouse Road, Anthony Burns, and Garrisonville Elementary. There we go. I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful time with us and that we're going to be able to show you lots and lots of animals. Now remember that you can ask us any questions that you have because this is interactive. So if you have questions, ask your teachers and they'll send them through to us and we'll try and get through as many as possible. And for all our other viewers, remember we will still take your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, but we'll do those a little bit later after the schools have finished. Now, we do have some animals here. We've got a beautiful kudu that is just sitting watching on the top of a termite mound. Now, kudus are one of my favorite antelopes. They're the largest antelope that we see here, and that is a girl kudu, a young girl kudu. She's still not fully grown yet. She's going to get much bigger, but look at the size of her ears. Can you see how big those ears are? Those ears are there so that she can hear very well. You can imagine those ears being big like that, catch lots and lots of sound, and it makes it very easy for this kudu to be able to hear the lions and the leopards and all the other dangerous animals that will try and hunt them. Now, the reason why their ears are so much bigger than a lot of the other animals is because the kudu likes to be in thick areas. And when I say thick areas, it likes to be behind the trees and the bushes where it knows that it can hide away and stay out of the way of predators. And so those ears help for it to be able to hear. Now, I'm not the only one out here. My good friend Taylor is also out, and she's got something that she would like to show you, and it sometimes makes noises like a pig.
Sometimes it does make noises like a pig, Tristan. You caught me off guard there. We are looking at a family of warthogs, and they just keep coming and coming, but we'll have a closer look at them. Welcome, of course, a big welcome to all the schools that are joining us. I'm very excited to teach you a little bit about the African animals, and my name is Taylor, and on camera with me is Fergus, and he's bringing you all the amazing animal sightings. How cool is that? Should we have another look at these warthogs, though? They are so sweet. Now, there's quite a few families of warthogs in the area, and this is Mom with all of her little ones, but they're not little piglets anymore. Look, there's another one coming behind them. There must be about 5, maybe even 6 piglets. I suppose we wouldn't call them piglets now. They're at the age where you would say sub-adult. So they're sort of too old to be babies, but not quite old enough yet to be an adult. They're just starting to get their manes. Some of their tusks are starting to show. And I'm hoping that they're going to come right back out onto the road again. Now, we're really lucky to be sitting here with these warthogs, and they're not running away from us because they're quite shy. They're not always too fond of the camera, and I don't really blame them too much. Imagine being sort of food, I suppose you could say, for lots of the different big predators out here. So for a lion, for a leopard. So as she comes closer, I'm going to start talking softer, because I don't think that she realizes that we're here yet. She's actually staring straight into the sun. You see that? She can hear my voice. No, not too sure. I'm going to keep going. So we've got an advantage. And I think that we could be upwind of these warthogs too. Look at this. And all her little ones are following. But there's those tusks I was telling you about. You see them sticking out there? Now those are the weapons of the warthog. And they can get very sharp, almost razor sharp like a steak knife. Now the boars get much bigger tusks. The girls have slightly smaller ones, and when you're this age, it looks like you've already got big tusks. Can you see that? But it's not tusks at all, it's just hair. It's to try and trick the predators. How clever is that? Now, if you do have any questions for me, I'd love to hear from them. You're welcome to ask anything that you like about the safari, but off they go. How cool were those pigs? Wow. See if we can get another view. Now, Mason, you're wondering what kind of animals do we get in Africa? Well, we saw the warthogs. That's an iconic animal in Africa. We get elephants and giraffe and lions and leopards and African buffalo and wildebeest. There they are, just in here. See, now that they know we're here, they've actually run. They're just disappearing now. I don't think we're going to get another view of these warthogs. Maybe we'll see some more. Oh well. We're going to be checking some watering holes now, and hopefully we'll see some more animals coming to quench their thirst on a hot day like today. But let's go across to Tristan, who has found his next animal.
Well, it's not our next animal, Taylor. It's still our same ones, but there's just lots more kudu. So these kudus are in a small group together, and that's normally what you'll see with kudus. Lots of females, and then there'll be 1 or 2 boys here as well that are looking after the females. Now, there's a boy that's going to hopefully come out soon. He's right in the middle of that tree, and he's the one that's just pushed the females away. And you'll see he's going to be much bigger than the girl kudus, and he's also going to be much darker. So he's going to be a more grey color, and he has the most amazing horns. Big spiraled horns. So hopefully he'll come out and I'll be able to show you those big horns that you see there. But isn't it amazing how well the kudu hide away? Remember just now I was saying to you that if they go behind a tree, then it's very difficult to see them, and that's because of their color. They've got the perfect color to blend in with the African bush, and they have little white stripes on them that help to break up the body, and that's what we call camouflage. So it's a name that is used when an animal can hide away very well, is camouflage. Now these kudu are here because, like Taylor said, she's going to go look at water holes, and this is close to a water hole. So these kudu would have come and had a nice drink because it's that time of the day where it is very warm, and so kudus like to go and get some water and to cool themselves down, and also they need to stay hydrated. It's like us. If we don't drink water, then we're going to get a headache and we're not going to feel very well, and it will be the same for the kudus themselves. But what you will notice with our kudus is that now that they've had water, it's time for lunch. And these guys will only eat the leaves of the trees. So they're not like a cow that will eat only grass. These guys only eat trees, and so they're called browsers. Now, an animal that only eats grass is a grazer. There you can see the male. Look at his horns. Doesn't he have amazing horns? Now that's a young male. They're not even as big as they can get, but see how they turn and twist and they make this big shape. Now that's very cool. And some of the really big kudus, their horns will twist 3 times and the horns will get very long. So Sam, you want to know how many animals are in Africa? Well, I hope you mean species, because in terms of actual animals, there are millions and millions spread across Africa. Africa is a very big place. You can fit a lot of different continents, so you could even fit North America and Asia all inside here. So it's a very big continent, and there are millions of animals. And in terms of species, we also have a lot of different species. I don't know the exact number because we have different types of environments, and so what that means is we've got some places like this that we call a savanna, where we'll have savanna animals, and then sometimes we'll have jungles and islands and all of that, and there's all different animals that occur there. And remember, when we talk about animals, we're talking about birds and insects and lizards and snakes and mammals. So there are thousands and thousands across the African continent. Now, Giselle, you want to know whether we get hyenas. Look at how beautiful this male kudu is. He's just walking out. I'll get to your hyena question now. Isn't he amazing? And you see how he's got a big hump on his back there. That's full of muscle because a kudu can jump very well. It's not uncommon to see kudu jumping over 10 feet in the air to escape a predator. And look at the male to the left. You're going to see him there. Look at the size of his horns. See how they go out? Those are massive horns. Very cool. And you're not going to see a kudu that big every single day. Very nice. Well, Gazelle, yes, we do have hyenas in this area, but now at this time of the day, it's a little bit hot for the hyenas. They normally are going to be resting at this time. It's still too warm. They like to come out in the night time when they can then start to be able to look for either scavenge, which means to go and look for dead animals that they can steal from lion or leopard, or to go and hunt themselves. And they will like to hunt things like a kudu. So yes, we do see them here, but maybe just a little bit later. We shouldn't really see them now. It's a little bit too warm for them. They're going to be sleeping now. Right, our kudu are moving off, so I think we're going to do just like Taylor and go and see if we can't check some of the water holes, and maybe we'll get lucky with an elephant or one of the bigger animals like that having a little afternoon drink. Now, while I also head to the water holes, I know Taylor said she's doing the same, but I don't think she's quite reached there, but let's go and find out.
We're almost there, Tristan. We're driving on that road that has been known for leopards for the last week or so now. So we're looking in all the marula trees. It's very important as you're driving around. There's actually a lot of multitasking that you have to do when you're a guide. So firstly, you're looking on the ground to see if the animals have left any footprints, and then you can see, is there any footprints down there? No, it doesn't really look like it. I can just see tire tracks for now, and there's probably a lot of antelope tracks too. So you're looking down on the ground, and this is all while you're driving, by the way. And then we've got to check the surrounding areas. Now, this area is very good. Look at all the marula trees, these big trees here, one of the most iconic trees in Africa. These would make the perfect spots for leopards to sit in. But now the trick is you've got to check the trees on a hot day like today, the ones that have got lots of leaves on them, because they'll want to sit in the shade. It's not the early morning, they won't be warming up, so that branch over there, that would be perfect for a leopard to lay in, or even better, that tree over there. You see that nice horizontal one? How great is that? Lots of leaves, but it's also been exceptionally hot. And like Tristan said, the kudu might go down for a drink, so might the warthog, and well, leopards get thirsty too. So we're going to keep checking around here, and hopefully we're going to get lucky. There's lots of young leopards at the moment that are moving around during the day because they're a little bit scared to move around too much at night, because that's when the big strong leopards and lions and the rest of the predators like to move around in. So they're quite clever. They try and avoid any conflicts, so they don't want to get in any fights or any arguments. They'll rather just ignore each other completely. Now, let's see. Okay, nothing here. It looks like there were lots of... There's zebra. Look at them hiding away down there. Actually, Ferg, there's one on the termite mine. Remember we were looking in this termite mine the other day? And I think I have leopard tracks too. Look at that zebra just hiding up there. That's a sneaky one. So you've got to look very carefully. But again, in the shade, look at that. Now, it looks like it's quite high up at the moment. And like I said, it's on top of a termite mound. There's lots of big trees growing around. It's in a drainage system, and that's the best spot to be in on a hot day like today. I think eventually they're also going to make their way down to the water. But zebra, I can't tell you how long you sometimes have to wait for the zebra to come down to drink. They get very, very nervous. And it's often the big stallion, so the big boy, who heads up the front and leads the herd to safety down to the water. But you've got to be careful when you're approaching water. You've got to check left, check right, check behind you, check in front of you, look underneath the grass, that there's not... Like what you do at a zebra crossing, says Fergus. That's correct. So they've got to be very, very careful. But I wonder if we go around, maybe there's some more zebra at the dam. This could be quite a big herd of zebra, because it's a bit difficult to see them at the moment. But that's quite nice. That's the stripiest animal we have in Africa. They're beautiful. They look like horses, don't you think? I think we're going to head around to that dam now, and hopefully we'll find something having a drink. Perhaps some more of the zebra herd will be there waiting for us. Tristan is going to show you a beautiful track in the sand.
Right, so what we've now doing was when we try and look for any sort of animal out here, one of the most important ways to find the animals is by looking for their footprints. Now that might sound strange because we don't find people like that, but out here the footprints tell us where the animals are going and how to find them. And here we have the footprint for the biggest predator that we get out here. Now it's very difficult to see at the moment because this track isn't very fresh. It's not from today, so this track was from 2 days ago. But if we have a look here, I'm going to just do the outline for you. This is the edge here, and it comes around like that, and then there, and around, and it comes there, and then here are the toes, and there's another toe there, and another toe there, and another toe there. So this is the track for a male lion. It's the biggest predator we have out here, and the male lions are the apex predator, which means they are on top of the food chain when it comes to all the carnivores. And this male lion was walking here 2 mornings ago, and I know that because we managed to find this male lion. And the reason why I know the tracks are not fresh is because since then we've had a little bit of wind, and when there's wind it means that it blows the sand onto the top of the track, so the track becomes very difficult to see. It's not as clear as you would think. So if I had to put my hand here, I'm going to put my handprint. Look how much more clear that is, and how the edges of the track are very, very, very easy to see. And so that's how we know whether it's fresh or not. Also, if we have a look here, so I don't know if Craig can show you, there is a little hoof print. Now that's a print for an antelope that we get here that's almost like a deer in size, called an Impala, and that hoof was going straight over the top of our lion track, which means that the animals that are active during the day have walked over the top of the lion, and therefore the lion passed here probably in the night time. So that's how we know that the tracks are not very fresh, and it means that we're not going to be able to probably find this lion, because this lion has probably walked very, very far since the day that this track was made. But it's really cool to see the size of his foot. It's almost the same size as my hand. And the male lions out here, this particular male doesn't have the biggest feet of all of his brothers. Now there's 4 of them that are the males that look after this area and are in charge of this area, and his feet aren't the biggest. There's another male that's got much bigger feet, which is amazing. Now we're going to carry on towards our waterhole, and you never know, maybe we get lucky and our lion track will lead us somewhere, and maybe the lion is somewhere and then back in this area. So while we do that, let's go back to Taylor and see how she's doing. I don't know if she's finding more of the zebras.
We are waiting very patiently for a hippo to pop its head up from underneath the water. It's playing hide and seek with us at the moment, and it's winning. We can't find it. We saw it as we came around to the dam, but they can hold their breaths for such a long time, and sometimes the animals can be a little bit frightened of the car. But I don't know why this hippo has gone underwater, because I saw the same hippo the other morning with about more than 30 elephants surrounding it, and he didn't seem to be too bothered at all. Him and the Egyptian geese actually went to the middle of the water. Oh, that's a terrapin, that's not the hippo. Now that is like a turtle. You would probably call them a snapping turtle. They look fairly similar, but in South Africa we call them terrapins. And they're these small little reptiles. They typically are freshwater. We normally fry them out here, so they don't enjoy the salt water like a sea turtle. And they're eating all the insects on the top of the water. They also feed on some bits of vegetation too. They sort of have a mixed diet. And that's not all that's at the dam. We'll hopefully wait for the hippo to pop up. But there's Mr. and Mrs. Egyptian Goose. They should just swim into the corner of your screen. There they are, right on time. You were almost late. You just made it. Looking at me giving a death stare. So they also live around here at this dam, swimming about, feeding. There's the hippo. Aurora, you're wondering how big is the hippo's mouth? Oh, and under he goes again. That's where the hippo is, so maybe he's going to come this way. So hippos have got really big mouths. This isn't a big one. This hippo, I think, is still quite young. You can see, look at all the water swirling in the bubbles. He should pop up again. Maybe he'll start to relax as soon as he gets used to the sound of my voice, but he's made all these ripples now. But they can open their mouths quite wide. A big male hippo can almost open his mouth. There he is. Hello? Don't go down again. We want to see you. I'll eventually get your answer, Aurora. Just almost a meter, about 3 feet. Look at that. Now, Lorene, you're wondering, how can a hippo breathe underwater? They can't. They hold their breaths, just like you and I would if we were to go underneath the water. Who are you snorting at? I think this hippo and the Egyptian geese have a very special relationship. Look, the geese are coming right up towards the hippo now. They're not too far away. What do you want to do with that hippo? Perhaps they want to catch a wave as the hippo goes down. You see that? Creating ripples? Woo! Say the Egyptian geese as they go racing back towards the banks now. There's our friend the hippo. Whoop, and underneath again. So hippos are mammals. So they don't, not like dolphins and whales. Now, Brandon, you're also wondering, why do hippos live in water? It's to protect their very sensitive skin. So they need to try and keep nice and cool. So with that, you're probably wondering, what does a hippo eat then? It must eat fish because it lives in the water for most of its day, but it doesn't. It's actually a vegetarian, so we would call it a herbivore is the correct word for a vegetarian animal out in the bush, and it is a grazer, so it just eats grass. Sometimes they'll eat a couple of leaves every now and then when they get very desperate, but most of their diet is made up of grass. So in the water, their skin keeps nice and cool and nice and moist. It protects them from getting sunburnt too. I think we're going to wait a little bit for this hippo to come up. I think he'll relax with us eventually. But Tristan is playing games now, and he's going to show you the remains of a buffalo.
We are indeed. So we showed you the footprint for a lion, and this is the lion's favorite animal to eat out here. This particular buffalo didn't die from a lion. It died last year because unfortunately we had a very bad drought. Now a drought means when we get not very much rainfall and the area that we're in gets very, very dry, and there's no grass, and the animals can't find food or water, and then they die from it. So this is why this animal died. But the reason why we know it's a buffalo is because just one is the size of it. Look at how big it is. And this is a young male buffalo, and we know he's a young male buffalo, one, because his skull isn't as big as they can get, and two, if you look on top here, this area on a very old buffalo will get very, very thick. It will almost add an extra sort of layer on top, and the reason why is because the bone that is on top here gets thicker to protect the skull inside, so when they're fighting that they don't get hurt. And this is the difference between what we see on your antelope in the northern hemisphere of the world that have antlers. These are called horns, and the reason why is because the horn is a bone structure like this that then grows, and it's covered by what we see here is a sort of darker sheath that comes round. Now this dark sheath is called keratin. Now keratin is the exact same thing as your fingernails, so it's basically like a big fingernail that's growing over the top of the horn, and this protects the horn a little bit and stops any of the damage to the bone itself, and allows the bone, when it's still growing and is soft, to be able to carry on and not to break and chip, and keep it in all good health. Now you may notice though that this horn looks very funny. It almost looks like it's got caterpillars all over it, doesn't it? Now these are not caterpillars. This is a very clever little moth that has laid its eggs here, and the eggs have hatched into a little larvae like a worm, and the worm eats that keratin. It's the only animal in the whole of Africa that can eat this keratin and actually digest it. And so what happens is the little moth starts to eat, and then as it's eating, it releases silk like a silkworm or a spider, and then it mixes that silk with its dung or its feces as well as little particles of soil, and it makes a tube. And now this tube is where that it can live. So it means that another sort of predator, if it's like a bird or an insect, comes to try and get this worm. Look, it's hard. It can't get inside there, and it can't get to the caterpillar. The caterpillar will then live, and eventually it gets older, and it's going to eat its way out the top, and then it flies away. Isn't that amazing? And so all of this area here has been eaten by these caterpillars and by this type of moth, which is very, very cool. Now that moth is called a horn-boring moth, and that's why it's called that, is because it makes all these holes in the actual horn itself. I'm going to try and see if I can't find one that's already open. Here we go. Here's one that's already open, and I'm going to break it off for you. And you can see it's very difficult to get off, but what I want to try and show you is what is underneath. So there we go. You see inside there is a little hole, and that's where the little moth has eaten away. And so that's why it's called a borer moth, because when you bore, you eat into the horn itself. So Shania, you're asking what season does this buffalo horns grow? Well, Shania, unlike the deer in your country, our buffalo have horns all throughout the year. And the reason why is because where you are, the deer have antlers, and the antlers are made of cartilage, and the cartilage grows every year, and then it falls off again, and then regrows the next year. With our buffalo, because it's bone, it's like your arm. Once your arm starts to grow, if you had to cut it off, it's not going to come back again. And so for the buffalo, as it starts as a young buffalo, it'll get small little pointy horns, and eventually that horn starts to drop and then becomes big like this throughout its life. So as long as the buffalo is alive, its horns are growing every single day. It's very, very cool. Now the interesting thing with this buffalo is look at the size of its eye. So Kayla, You're wondering, we'll get to the eye just now, you're wondering why buffaloes have horns. Well, I was saying to you just now that lions like to hunt buffalo, and so this is the way that the buffalo can protect itself. It will use these horns, and it will basically go and try and dig the horn into the lion itself and try and hook the lion and throw the lion away and to try and protect itself. The other reason why they have horns is so that the males can fight with one another to have a sort of territory. So they'll fight and they'll say, okay, this is my land. It's much like you have a home and your neighbors will have a home. It's the same for the buffalo. They fight over that so that they can then have a place to stay, and that's why they need the horns itself. Now, I was talking about the eye. You can see with the buffalo is that it's got a very big eye socket, and the eye socket is there to be able to see predators very well. What you will find is with any animal that is a prey animal, most of them will have a very, very, very good sense of sight. So we were talking earlier about our kudu having very good ears, but the buffalo has very good eyesight, and it means that it has to have a big eyeball so that it can spot those lions from far away so that it doesn't get eaten. You can also see that it's got big nostrils, so this is where its nose would have been, so that it can smell very well and be able to pick up those lions when it needs to. Now, the other cool thing about this skull is the teeth. You can see here. So, Ashlyn, you asking me about what is the buffalo's diet, and the teeth here will show us exactly what the diet is. If you look at these teeth, they've got little triangles on them. You see that? Now, those triangles are perfect for cutting grass. So the buffalo is like a cow. It eats lots and lots of grass, and what it will do is it has front teeth that are normally sitting here, and unfortunately they disappeared over time, and they're normally on the lower jaw, and those front teeth are quite sharp and they cut the grass. The grass then travels in and it goes here, and from here it will then be chewed, and these little triangles basically act like a knife and fork, and they cut all the little bits of grass into tiny pieces, and that then gets swallowed into the buffalo's tummy. But the buffalo is interesting because it has 4 tummies, not just one, and so as it swallows, it will then regurgitate again and bring that ball of food up and chew it again and try and get as much nutrients out of the grass as possible. It really is a very, very clever system. Right, I'm going to go and put our buffalo skull down because it's a little bit smelly and I don't want it to drive along with us because it's making a very big mess. And while we do that, let's go see how Taylor's doing and whether she's had any luck.
I've just found some leopard tracks, and I don't know if they were here this morning. I didn't drive down this road. I'm going to show them to you though. Let's check before we jump out the car that there's no animals waiting for us. We don't want to disturb them either, so find a nice one. If we look over here, this whole thing over here is the leopard track, and you can see it's much smaller than my hand, and it's from a young male. I don't think it's one of the big boys. I think it's one of the few young boys that are walking around here, and he's going that way. Now, there are lots of elephant tracks as well from the day, and I think that these are over the tops of whoever was driving here this morning. That's quite interesting. Just checking very carefully. So we might have to go back this way. Or they can't be the same tracks that I was following this morning because they come from the opposite direction. I'm just going to circle a few of them. There we go, we've got 2. So that the next person that comes down here as well can have a look at them. Because some of the safari cars have got trackers, so they'll be taking people on holiday, and then the guide, like what I do, and then the tracker, he sits in the front of the car and he spots all the animals, and especially well trained in following the footprints of animals. I'm going to call them in on the radio, see if anybody has maybe seen them. Very interesting. We'll have to ask Tristan too if he's seen these leopard tracks. But speaking of Tristan, I think he's winning the animal game today. He has found his next antelope and he can't wait to tell you about them.
Well, we have indeed, Taylor, and I don't know if we're winning the contest yet. You're still on the most exciting animal because leopards are my favorite, and if Taylor finds that leopard, I'm going to be very jealous. But yes, this is one of my favorite antelope that we have out here as well. Like the Kudus, which we saw earlier, it's the same family, but you can see these guys look a little bit different. They've got a bit of red in them, and these are called Impalas. Now, some of you who know cars may know what a Chevrolet Impala is. So that's a type of car that you get in the United States, and it was named after this particular animal. And this animal is the most common antelope we get out here. It's like your white-tailed deer for us here in Africa, and it is in lots and lots and lots of them that will move around here. This particular herd that we're seeing is mostly females with young males, and at this time of the year, what we see from them is generally we will see that it's mostly females with young males and one big male, because it's the time of the year when the males chase the females around and chase the other males around. As we start to go into our winter months, because now it's winter here, even though it's summer where you are, because we are on the opposite side of the world, it is now winter here. And then once we get into the summer months at the end of our year, so when we get to November, December, then they'll all start having their little babies, and you'll find a lot more of a mixed herd. Now, Carl, you want to know how fast do antelope run? Well, it depends on the antelope. Some antelopes are faster than others. So this antelope that we see here, the Impala, can do about 80 kilometers an hour. So it is very, very, very fast. Now in miles, that is probably about just over 50 miles an hour. So they can run very fast, and they have to, because out here there's lots of things that want to eat an Impala. An Impala is probably the biggest food source for all of our predators. So we'll find that pythons, which is a snake, you'll find that some of the eagles will try and hunt the babies, and then lions, leopards, hyenas, wild dogs, all of these predators are going to go after impalas. So they have to be able to run very, very fast to be able to get away from them. And that's why they spend time together like this, because if there's lots of them together, there's lots of eyes, lots of ears, and lots of noses to smell, see, and hear any predators that may be around. So, Presley, you want to know what antelope eats? Well, earlier we were discussing that the kudu eats the leaves of the trees and is called a browser. The buffalo, the skull that we saw just now, I showed you that their teeth are good for eating grass. Now, the impalas are a little bit different. They can eat both the leaves and the grass, so they're called a mixed feeder, and it's unique to only a small number of antelope. And the reason why is because if you have everybody that can eat everything, they're going to eat all the food and there's going to be nothing for anybody else. So you only have to have a few animals that can eat grass, a few animals that can eat leaves, and only some animals that can eat both. The only other animal that really eats both as well as what the impala does are goats. They also are ones that can eat leaves and grass. So, Kasia, you want to know how big are antelopes? Well, it depends again on the antelope. The kudu that we saw earlier is a very, very big antelope. Male kudu can weigh as much as 600 pounds, so it can be very, very big. Whereas a male impala probably only weighs close to about 170 to 180 pounds, so they're much smaller. And then we get very, very small antelope here that are called steenbok or duiker, and those are only weighing about 30 pounds, so they're very small. And so it depends on the different species. Antelope is just a way of talking about all of the animals out here that have a hoofed foot and are the ones that eat grass and vegetation, so we call all of those antelope. The impalas themselves are a different species of an antelope. Now I'm going to try and just reposition us so that you can see better. I'm going to just go back a little bit because our impalas are moving just on my left hand side here. Now Jessica, you want to know how high an antelope can jump. Well, earlier with the kudus, which is the first one we saw, they are the best jumpers that we have out here. And I was saying earlier that sometimes they can jump over 10 feet. Can you imagine being able to jump 10 feet high in the air? That's very, very, very high. It will be able to jump over your wall at home. Where the impalas, they're not able to jump nearly as high as that. They still can jump fairly high, and you'll see that they'll probably go, I would say they can jump easily 6 foot into the air, so they're very, very good jumpers as well, and they have to be able to try and jump away from a leopard or a lion that may be hunting them. Now you can see there's the big male, look, he's got horns, and the females, you'll see some of them don't have horns, and those are the females. The males will have the big horn structure, and the reason why the females don't have it is because the females don't need them to fight with one another. The females like to hang around together, and so they don't have to fight, whereas the males, they have to fight to try and establish a dominance. But look how pretty they are when they're shining like that. They're one of the most beautiful antelope we have out here. But our impalas are unfortunately going into thicker bush, and we're not going to be able to see them for much longer. So I'm going to carry on towards the waterhole and see if I can't find you a big elephant. And while we do that, let's go back to Taylor and see how her leopard search is going.
Right, it seems as though we've got some more guides who have just started safari, which is really good. So I want to update them on these tracks, because now I've got young female leopard tracks as well. Tax for Taylor. Let me tell Tax and let me call him very quickly. Taxon for Taylor. Just trying to see if he's going to respond. Tax, I had young Madoda Ingwe and Konzo coming up Weaver's Nest from Gowrie, Maine. I don't know if they were seen this morning. And then now I've got Mafazi, Ingwe and Konzo going south along Weaver's Nest, but on the northern side of that, before you get to that big drainage. And then I don't know if you know the update from this morning, I had adult male leopard tracks going into the block between the Jigga Jigga Road, Wahlberg's Road and Philemon's Dip. But no tracks coming out. I don't know if you want to maybe come and help me follow up here. I'm going to do a couple of laps around Treehouse Dam. Okay, right, let me show you the female leopard tracks that I was talking about. Just very quickly needed to update everybody on what's going on. Let me find a nice one. Here's one. This one's a little bit further away. So if you look very carefully over here, a little stick. This track is much smaller than the one we saw earlier, so you can see it's a cat. 1, 2, 3 lobes at the back, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and going this way. And if I put my hand next to it, see how much smaller it is compared to my hand? It's very, very small. So this is quite interesting. So I think these leopards are around here somewhere. We just need to find their hiding spot. They've been trying to keep out of all the sun today, relaxing in the shade. So that's quite good. I'm also going to try and mark 1 or 2. So people, if anybody does drive over them, they can at least see them. And they should see them back there. I think you know what we're going to do? I think we're going to go straight back towards that dam that we were at, where that shy hippo was. We won't bother the hippo too much. What we will bother though are hopefully some leopards. Now I need to turn around. See, this is the hard part about going on a safari, is trying to figure out the story and put the puzzle together, because that's what the animals have done. They've left their footprints on the ground for us, and we have to put it back together and figure out where they're going to be. So we're sort of like investigators, like detectives, animal detectives. Okay, let's not drive over those tracks. We'll keep them nice and clean. Now I'm confused. We didn't drive this road, so we'll go and check this road now. And as we drive about searching for leopards, Anthony, you're wondering what types of birds do you get in Africa? Well, we'll see if we can find you some birds. You saw the Egyptian geese. They're fairly common, but there's some really, really pretty birds out here. Okay, they're the male leopard tracks. Just thinking what's gone on here now. There's so many tracks here going up and down. I think we need to check this road. Let me just say, I think we need to check Elephant Skull. Okay, no, I can't get on the radio now. Right. I'll chat to them in a moment. We'll just try and find the leopards then. They're here somewhere. They're definitely around. Anthony, we'll also see if we can find you some birds to have a look at. Now, Katie, as soon as we were talking about leopard tracks, you're wondering what is the difference between a male and a female leopard track. That's a very good question. Most of the time it's got to do with the size and how sort of broad the track is. So with the female tracks, they're often a lot more slender. They're not sort of as wide, whereas the male tracks are almost the same width as they are the same length. And then of course they get much, much bigger. But it is difficult. It does take a bit of practice before you can properly identify the tracks out here. But now I don't see any more tracks. And I have to no, I've got them again. I have to concentrate very hard. They were walking up and down on this road. I think they're here. They're definitely in this area. I didn't see any tracks crossing out on one of the boundary roads, but this is the hard part. You've got to focus. Remember I told you you're looking on the ground for footprints, and then you're also looking up in the trees and down in the drainage lines. So it can be virtually impossible. It's very easy to just drive past the animals too. So we're hopefully not going to do that. So even if we drive an area 100 times, maybe only on the 105th time, then we will, of course... No, I forgot what I was saying. Sorry. Sometimes that happens to me. Let's just check again. I was saying it doesn't matter how many times you drive the road. You can drive it and drive it and drive it, and then all of a sudden, even though you've driven the same road 100 times, a leopard will appear, which is amazing. But I think that they're going to be... There's the hippo. Let me go here. We'll park far away from it, but I think it has spotted us. It looks like it's got the terrapins on its head now. Look at that. Don't go under the water, please. There's our friend the hippo. Look at all the... Look at that. It's a taxi in the bush. Look at that terrapin is sitting on top of the hippo's head. Now, what that terrapin is doing is it's using a hippo as a rock. So basically it's out in the middle of the water. So it feels fairly safe, because terrapins feel the safest and hippos feel the safest in the water. But this way it's also able to keep its body nice and warm, so it's tanning itself. Because remember, a terrapin is a reptile, and reptiles don't like the cold weather, and they have to get their heat, they have to warm themselves up from something else. So they can't just produce their own body heat like you and I. They need to either get it from the sun directly, or they need to sit on a nice warm rock and absorb the heat through the ground. So that's why, as we go into winter, we actually tend to see lots and lots of snakes out in the evening on the warm roads trying to keep nice and warm, because it doesn't really get too cold here. The mornings are chilly, but the evenings aren't too bad. But he's very shy. But let's keep searching. There's a couple of favorite spots of these leopards. They're here, and I think that it's not just one. I think that there's two. Let's just check that they haven't gone up here, because this is a Shongile's favorite spot. That's one of our young little leopards that has recently dispersed from her mom. These tracks are so fresh. There's another one right here. Literally, these are like they've just been stepped into the ground. Now I just want to see if they go in here. We'll come back. Let's check the road, and then we'll come back to these tracks and take this old pathway through here. Very interesting that we could potentially see a spotted cat around the next corner. So everybody, I hope you're keeping your eyes peeled and searching, helping me find the leopard, because I can't find it all on my own. I need your help. So tell me if you see a cat dangling from the tree. Then I'll probably stop. Let's keep searching. So while you search that side, I'll search the other way. Now, Peyton, you're wondering how long do leopards live for as you scan for them? No, it depends. Sometimes leopards don't even make it past 6 months old. When they're little, they're very vulnerable to lots of things out in the big bad world, and nature's not very kind. It can be quite cruel. So I would say that a leopard doesn't really live for more than about... Let's go, maybe the girls live a bit longer. Well, let me tell you, the oldest leopard I know was a leopard who was 16 years old. Her name was Nottens, and out in the wild. So I think that that's sort of the maximum age, maybe 17, but not normally more than that. And the boys usually live a shorter life. Their life is very stressful. It's the same thing with lions, whereas the male lions live a little less than the girls. But around 16 years old for a female leopard. Now the zebra were walking here and rolling around in the road at 1.2. I think I haven't seen any more leopard tracks, so I wonder if they didn't go up that animal pathway. But we'll just check here, just in case. We can't rule it out. They could have been walking through all of this vegetation. Let's keep searching. And of course I don't want to stop too often, because otherwise we're going to get further and further behind these cats, and they could be anywhere. They could be on their way out. We're not far from the boundary either. So it is important that I concentrate here. Now they're going back the other way again. Now, a very interesting question from Aiden as we watch the leopard tracks going up the road and down the road. You're wondering, what is the role of a leopard in the environment? Well, leopards are very important for, of course, controlling the herbivore population. So are lions, hyenas, cheetahs, wild dogs. They make sure that the impala, the kudu, the zebra, the wildebeest, that they don't get too many of them. They've got to make sure that they catch them, and that's the things that they'll be eating. So that's one of the main reasons. It's the same thing with birds of prey. They control the rodent populations and even the bird population to an extent, and the insect population, most importantly, actually. So all these different animals out here have got very unique roles. Some animals are even responsible for pollinating other plants from insects, and there's some mammals that do exactly the same thing, like the bats and on the the baobab trees, and also of course the giraffe with the acacias. So there's lots of different roles that the animals have out here. Tristan, however, has got a bird, and I'm sure he wants to show you it before it flies away.
We do indeed, because this bird is one of the most beautiful birds we have out here. Look at the colors on it. You see how it's shining? It almost looks like it's made of metal and has been spray painted with blues and greens. But that's all a trick. This is like a magician, this bird. Its feathers are actually black in color. They don't have any real blue or green color. What we're seeing there is a way that our eyes are being tricked by light refracting through the oils that they use to preen, as well as the structure of the feathers. So when I talk about refraction, it means the way that the colors come back when light passes through, and that's why we get that very, very, very bright green and blue coloration. It is one of the most beautiful birds, and that particular one was called a Burchell starling because it had a dark eye and a long tail. Now, Anthony, you want to know what types of birds are here in Africa? Well, Anthony, any type of bird you can imagine occurs here in Africa. We have parrots, we have storks, we have herons, we have eagles, we have hawks, we have all kinds of birds. In fact, South Africa, or Southern Africa, which is Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa, Lesotho, and Swaziland, those countries alone have 1/8 of the world's bird species in total. So they have almost 1,000 birds that occur just in the southern part of Africa alone. So we have so many birds, and we're so lucky to see all these brightly colored, beautiful birds like the starlings themselves. Now, the starlings are not the only birds that I see here, or not the only ones that are here. There's also some warthogs. There we go, there's our warthogs. Now, Blake, you want to know how many birds I've seen today? Well, Blake, quite a lot. We're very lucky here that we have lots of birds flying around, so I would say probably at least 30 or 40 birds. Now, in terms of different species of birds, we've had the starling, and I saw some oxpeckers earlier. I don't know if you remember when we were watching the kudu that there were some birds on the sides of its neck, and those were called red-billed oxpeckers, so we saw those too. And then just now we saw a very special bird called a greater painted snipe. Now, unfortunately with our special bird is that it hid away very quickly and it went into the grass, so we couldn't show you, but I'm going to show you a picture of it now. It's not a bird that we see here very often, and this is just one male on his own, and I saw him a few days ago, so I'm going to try and show you him again. Just give me 2 seconds, because I'll have to find him in the book. There we go. So this is the one that we saw now. It's called a greater painted snipe, and it's not a common bird here at all. There's some birds that we see every day, like the starling and the oxpeckers, but this bird is a special bird, and it's not one that we're going to see very often. And you can see it's got a long beak and a little white eye stripe, so it's a bird that you can see very, very easily identify, because no other bird in this area looks like this little guy. So isn't that cool? So yes, we've seen lots of birds, but not too many different species, only those ones. And I saw a hornbill earlier too. Now, hornbill is like Zazu from The Lion King, but it flew away. That's the problem with birds, is because they sometimes are a little bit skittish, it's difficult for us to show you every single bird that we see out here. Now, our warthogs seem to be going away, and I was hoping that they were going to come have a nice big mud wallow, but instead they've decided that they're going to move away from us and away from the mud wallow that's behind us. You can actually see that some of them are covered in mud already, and that's because it's been a warm day here today. It's probably in the sort of, I would say, about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and the animals get quite hot, and they'll then go into the mud and they'll roll around just to be able to cool down, and also to be able to look after their skin. You know, when you get a little bit dirty, you go into the bathroom, into the shower, and then you scrub yourself with a scrubbing brush to get off any dirt and get off any of the skin cells that are on your skin itself. And that's why they do it too, is they're doing it to try and clean themselves, and also to try and get rid of parasites. Now, the parasites that they get in this area are called ticks, and ticks are nasty little creatures. They get onto the warthog, and they have these mouth parts that are like a spear, and they stick their mouth parts into this warthog, and then they start to suck the warthog's blood. But the problem with the tick is that it has bacteria in its mouth, and that causes sometimes the warthog to feel not very well at all, and it can get a little bit sick from it. So then they roll around in the mud like that, and they kind of then can go and scrape, and they can pull off all these ticks and make sure that their body is in nice good condition. So it's a very clever system. Now you can see the male is the one on the left, and the reason why I know he's a male is because not only is he the biggest one, but if we have a look very carefully, you see he's got white teeth sticking out, and then on top of his white teeth he's got a little bump, and then big bumps near his eyes. Now, warthogs get their names from those warts there, and that's how we know if it's male or female, because the female will only have the warts around the eyes and not those ones just above his teeth. The male has the extra set because they fight with one another, and those are able to protect the eyes and keep this male's eyes nice and safe, and so that's why they're called warthogs. But isn't he cool? You can see also how well they blend in. The others have disappeared completely, so that grey coloration is perfect when you're a small animal in the grass. It makes it very hard for other animals to see you. The male is still right out in the open, and because he's a little bit bigger, we can still see him, but the others have vanished like a magic trick. So very, very clever. And you can see he's busy just eating. They have a very different kind of nose than other animals. They have a nose that's quite hard and has a round shape, and it can basically dig up roots and varying other types of food that they can then eat. Very, very cool. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for with the schools today. I hope you have had a wonderful afternoon with us. Well, it's day where you are, but I hope you've had a wonderful time and you've enjoyed seeing all these wonderful animals from Africa, and I hope that you have a great day further, and we'll see you all next time. Well, there we go. So, school drive done. Hopefully the kids had a really wonderful time, and a very warm welcome to all of our regular viewers. And remember, now is the time that you can send through any questions that you have, even if they are questions that you have had since the beginning of Drive, on #SafariLive on Twitter. Now, we're going to get into the serious business now of trying to get our head down and starting to really look for leopards. It's quite an exciting sort of afternoon. There's leopard tracks everywhere. Taylor's got male, female, young male. I had tracks earlier for a young female around Taylor Camp, which I really think can only be Shongile. So it seems like there are leopards in abundance somewhere on Djuma, and so we're going to try and see if we can't find them between Taylor and I believe Taylor is still on the tracks, so let's go across to her.
Well, hello again, everyone. I am still trying to find these leopards, of course, but I haven't had any luck just yet. I even went on that old 2-track where Ali had Tingana eating a warthog. Right, we went down there, but no luck, and that's where those last tracks actually went. Let me just go back very quickly. What is that? I think it's a stump. I'm going to use my camera because I don't have my binoculars. I just want to check into something. Just have a quick look. Make sure that it's not a leopard. It's not leopard. It looks very leopard-like on a stump. But we must just keep an eye out in this area. I think it's getting to the point where it's cooling down quite nicely now, and we should hopefully be able to find this leopard. Well, these leopards, because I think that there are two. Whether it's Shongile or Tandi or Shadow, I'm not too sure. But we're just going to keep checking around here. This is leopard heaven. this sort of round treehouse dam at the moment. It's amazing how it must be because of all the game, the watering holes, the nice trees. It's sort of perfect leopard habitat, if you will. Now, of course, a big welcome back. And I hope that all the kids enjoyed the school drive. I do just want to remind you that this is a live and interactive safari, so this is happening right now. It's not pre-recorded, and you can hashtag Safari Live with any of your questions. You're more than welcome to do that. And it doesn't have to just be a question. Perhaps you'd like to chat about something today. Maybe you can pass on what is wrong with me? Where are my words? I think I need to drink water. Where's my water? I think that's exactly what I need to do. No, it's okay. Here it is. Just hang on. Let me just figure out what's going on here. I'm also going to drink some water. Let me just find out. Tax, just can you go again with your message? Did you locate? Okay, copy. If you go to that eastern corner, basically if you drive from where you are to the junction where that 2-track is quite prominent that goes east, you'll see that there's very fresh tracks down on the ground. I don't think I bulala them. I think I drove around them. Just trying to get a game plan here, of course. Okay, copy. I'm just going to keep going around and around, and hopefully we get something. I'm going to check Gary Main again, though, just to see if they aren't maybe going to cross south. Alright, so Texan's seen all the tracks that I told him about the male and female tracks. So he agrees that they're somewhere in this area. I do want to quickly check Gary Main again. And hopefully we don't see any tracks crossing out. That won't be a good sign. And then we'll just check these pans to see if anyone's coming down for a drink of water. We know Tingana drank from this pan the other morning. No one's drinking water there. We'll check this one. No, not even a buffalo here yet. There's some nice trees and termite mounds again. Can I have that name again, please? Sorry, Alice, it's all coming through as one syllable. And can I have the whole thing again, even the question, Alice? this is comms is interesting. Okay, there we go. Now, Christy or Christi or I'm trying to hear what Alice is saying, but unfortunately my comms are coming through not so great all of a sudden. You're wondering if we have much poaching on Djuma. Now, I haven't been around and there's been any poaching incidents. The Sabi Sand Wildtuin, which is, I suppose you could say, the governing body, if you will, that runs the Sabi Sand, so all the private land that is within the Sabi Sand, they supply an anti-poaching team, and they're pretty good, very good in fact. So we haven't had any problems out here, but unfortunately in areas that don't have a lot of funding, and that's the biggest problem, those areas are targeted quite heavily, as one can imagine. So even though there might not be too much of an issue over here, try going to other places in South Africa, and then in the more rural areas throughout Africa, it becomes a lot more difficult to protect them. So for us, it's not too much of a problem, and it seems to only be rhinos that are getting poached if they do in this greater Kruger National Area. It's not really elephants anymore. That's ivory sort of trade is not fizzled out. I think that's a strong word to use out here in this particular area. But again, in Zambia, it's quite horrific. In Zimbabwe, I'm sure it's very much the same. They're still poaching elephants as well. And then there's a lot of lion and other big cat poaching that goes on too, for their skins and for their bones. So there's many different animals that are being poached. And of course, pangolin or armadillos all around the world are suffering. They're the most trafficked animal in the world, more so than rhinos and elephants. So we've got to be careful and try and preserve our animals to the best of our ability. Now I think we're just going to extend our search just slightly further west. I'm just keeping an eye out, of course, down on the road to see if there are any tracks, and we'll go in at sort of Philemon's, Zoe's Road, Philemon's Cutline Junction. And I just want to triple check again. Maybe we'll even go back to where we had those male leopard tracks this morning. Maybe we'll go and drive around Ingwe Alley, around there maybe, and see if anything has come out, because I don't think anybody has been there just yet. We might be the first ones. And I remember exactly where the tracks were that we had, so if we see any more, and then ultimately that'll mean that that cat was moving around, which is good, because hopefully we'll be able to follow the footprints. It started getting a bit gusty this morning, just before drive ended, and it didn't really continue throughout the day. It actually died down completely. Now there's a slight breeze, but other than that, it's been a very pleasant day. So those tracks should still be intact and quite neat. Lots of human footprints around here. Obviously, just checking this morning to see if any cats had come in. Make sure nothing on the fire break. Off we go. Right, we're going to keep searching. We're going to check the tops of the trees, the watering holes, the termite mounds, all of these things that leopards like to hang around, and hopefully we'll find a spotted cat. Tristan might have an interesting bird to show you.
Well, we do indeed. So we've been able to find our painted snipe again. So for those of you that weren't watching the other day and want to add another bird to your list, I'm hoping that there are some of you that like to add birds. There is our painted snipe friend, and I do need to apologize. The other day I kept calling it a female, and I don't know why. My brain is probably still on leave at that stage, but it is a male greater painted snipe. So for all of you that didn't know, well, that thought it was a male bird, a female bird, it's not. This is the male bird. The female is the more brightly colored. But look at the camouflage of this bird, and you can see why it's so easy to overlook this this individual. It's a bird that just camouflages so well. So if you just have a look in the sort of clump itself, you can just see the sort of flecks of gold and then that white belly, and every now and then it will move a little bit, and that's how it sort of we were able to see it, is because of its moving just a little bit like that. You can see its head is bobbing back and forth as well. So very cool. There we go. Hello, how are you? He's having a good afternoon nap. I think he's enjoying the nice sunshine. So there is our painted snipe. Right, we're going to leave our painted snipe to have a little nap, because there's a couple other people that want to come and see it, and I don't want to disturb it too much. But if we have a look over there, we just have some nyalas that have come down to Twin Dams to have a little drink as well. So it's a group of nyala, and it looks like a mom with her older baby from the year before, and then her newer one by the looks of it from here, although they look quite similar, don't they? And I've never actually heard of twins in a antelope family, or in nyala in particular, so I wonder. No, the one in front is definitely a little bit bigger than the other one, but look how pretty they are. They've got such nice markings. I love the markings on nyala. They've got these kind of white lines and that rusty red coat. They really are very pretty animals, and super dainty with the way that they walk, kind of place their foot and make sure that they just step in the same place, and they do that direct register as to not attract too much attention and too much noise to themselves. Right, but they're disappearing too, and nothing else really around Twin Dams. I was hoping that maybe Taylor's tracks came down this way, but at this stage, no sort of sign. So I think what I'm going to do is probably head up towards Buffelshoek Dam, see if I can't find some ellies, and then while I do that, hopefully Taylor will have come right with her leopards, and then a little bit later, I want to head towards sort of Gallagher Pass and see if I can find Buffelshoek, because I'm sure those are her tracks that were moving around last night, and those tracks are fairly fresh, because I went towards Inga's and that was quite late at night and the tracks weren't there. Right, well, we're probably going to lose signal, so let's go back to Taylor and see how her leopard search is going.
Still looking, I'm afraid, still looking for the leopards as we bumble about. And I suppose all we can do right now is just keep checking roads, because their tracks go all over the show, so it is very difficult to try and figure out what on earth they were actually getting up to and who it was moving around during the day. We will hopefully get them eventually. Maybe we'll go check the hyena den now. We're just passing Savage's track again. I'm just hoping to intercept one of these cats as they start to move. So we'll go here, we'll check the hyena den, then we'll go and check around Ingwe Alley. We'll do a quick loop around there, stop at Vuyatela Dan, see if there's any interesting birds, or maybe some elephants come down for a drink. But now Tristan is calling me. Right, I'm going to have a quick chat with Tristan on the radio. It seems as though the Mara team is up, so let's go say good afternoon to Brent.
Can you hear me, Dave? Oh no, they put the phone down on me or I lost signal, one of the two. Could have been either. I can't find the other phone. I found one of them.
So I very quickly need to finish this conversation. He's going to come and help us search for these leopards. It just seems to be myself, Tristan, and I think Taxon driving in the area. Sorry about that as well. I don't know what happened in Kenya, but you know we have these problems every now and then. Sorry, Tristan. So if you want, there's very fresh male leopard tracks on the eastern corner of Treehouse Dam. You can go and have a look at them. And then I had female tracks as well going on Savage's track, but the ones on Elephant Carcass look a lot fresher. Yeah, FM, I think those are the ones that I have eventually, and then they go onto what's that road, Ingwe Alley, and then they don't come out. Then they pace up and down there. Was nothing in the drainage line that runs just to the east of it. But we had a good search around there this morning. I'm going to move back towards there now. I'm just checking the Misikaya. There we go. So Tristan is now up to date with everything. So he's on board with with trying to help us find the leopards. He's also going to just come weaving around. Now we've just arrived at the hyena den, but you can see that there's nothing here. If you have a look, it's very, very quiet. And I haven't seen any very fresh evidence for the last 2 mornings now, when we came through here the last time. Now normally when you come here first thing in the morning, you see a lot of hyena activity. You'll often see a spot where they were laying in the sand on the roads that run around the den, and you'll see the little cub tracks too, but I haven't been seeing that. So I think, and I'm probably going to say this, and then this evening we'll find them later, which is also fine. See, there's another spot that they would lie, is I think that they've moved to one of their other dens that they have sort of just off of Rebecca's in that big drainage system, and we often walk and we've often seen hyena on foot there. So I think that that's where they could be hanging about. But that's okay. We'll keep searching then. Let's go check Ingwe Alley. Right. Let's try this again and see if Brent can manage to fend off the gremlins. Hopefully he's got his Maasai sword handy, but let's jump back on board with him.
Well, unfortunately, I think Brent is battling with his gremlins, or Jamie. I'm actually not sure who is in the Mara today, and so they seem to be having a little bit of a tough time, so I do apologize about that. We will get it right eventually. Now, I'm a little bit sort of, what are these now? Egyptian geese that are busy flying past. I'm sure they're on their way to Twin Dams. Good luck, Egyptian geese. Surprising to hear them flying over so quietly. Generally, they make quite a bit of noise, so it's quite nice to actually hear a silent Egyptian goose. Normally honking and hissing as they fly along, particularly if they approach water and there's other Egyptian geese there, then you normally hear a lot of racket. Now, Taylor has just said that maybe it's worth me just checking Treehouse Dam quickly, so I'm just going to give her a quick hand here on my way up towards Buffelshoek Dam and just see. You never know, maybe one of us gets lucky enough to actually bump into one of these leopards. It seems like it was a leopard fiasco, as Taylor would say, with all the leopards everywhere, although that was quite a funny moment. She was telling me about it the other day, and we then joked around that her fiasco was actually a fiesta and there was lots of leopards. So maybe we'll find something similar again. Wouldn't that be nice to find all of our leopards together in the same area? That would be very, very special indeed. Now, I know Hosanna sometimes likes to hang around where we are now, and he sometimes is a little sneaky. He lies down and he just watches you through this grass, and the grass here is the perfect color for a leopard just to blend in completely. So I'm just trying to see very nicely where he actually could be. I know that sometimes he gets found lying around here, so just going very, very slowly if it's him, in case. Now, we know the other day from being at Treehouse Dam that sometimes you can be right there for 20 minutes and you don't even know there's a leopard there. So it's going to be worth just checking around that back edge of Treehouse Dam down towards the sort of western side of the waterhole, just in case, because you never know. But I can actually see Miss McCurdy herself. Well, no, it's not Miss McCurdy, it's one of the Djuma vehicles that are busy trying to follow up in this area and trying to see if they can't find anything. So I think what I'm going to do, if they're all there, then I'm going to carry on towards Shabamu side and then go up on Shabamu side, and you never know, maybe we get lucky. It seems to me that this is the best place to look for the young royals these days. Both Hosanna and Shongile seem to come past fairly regularly. I'm just waving to a friend of mine that's on that vehicle. So there's a photographic group that's here, and one of my friends is leading that photographic group, so nice to see them back and see them in the sands. Oh, and we've got a fleeing squirrel. Look at it run down the road. It's in full speed and it just ducked to the right, which is quite typical for a squirrel. They never really settle too long and don't really stay around too much. So let's see if I can't get a little bit closer and maybe the squirrel will be up on a branch. Now I'm just listening to the update. Apparently the tracks for this leopard have started to head north. Aubrey's found them. So it went from the waterhole and it headed up towards where the hyena den is. So I know Taylor's in that area, so she's going to have to look very carefully, because it sounds like those tracks are heading straight up to where Taylor is. Maybe Taylor will get lucky and will bump into that leopard somewhere in that area. Sometimes very difficult, especially when we've got so many different individuals moving around. I mean, we know that Tingana was here yesterday in this area in the morning, but the size of the track that we're following is definitely not for him. That's not a massive male that I've seen. I don't know if Taylor maybe saw different tracks, but the tracks that I saw look for like for Hosanna himself. So I'm hoping that it will be one of them. And you never know with Tingana as well. He can do loops around all over the place and end up right back where you started 3 hours later. So maybe we'll get lucky with him too. I still think I'm going to try and head up towards where Shongile's tracks were and try and kind of have a look there, but I thought I'll help Taylor for 2 seconds while I'm in this particular area. And maybe you guys can help us. Where do you guys think would be a good place to check? Hashtag Safari Live, where you think these leopards might be hiding out, and whether and who you actually think might be on the property. It's going to be interesting to see, because if there's female and male and young female and young male, it could be a whole mixture of leopards here in this area. And I wonder if maybe Tundi and Tumba are also not in that equation. Right, So, onward and forward as we forge our way into the golden afternoon light and see if we can't find ourselves one of these spotted beauties. While we do that, let's go across to Miss McCurdy and see if she's had any better luck than what we have had.
No, not yet. Our luck has not changed. We're now approaching Terrapoin. There were no new footprints coming out on Ingwe Alley either. So maybe the cats are still fast asleep, or that cat that was in that area has just been sneaky and is one of the culprits of leaving the footprints behind that we've been seeing all afternoon. It's quite a tricky thing to put this all together. I think what we'll do is I think we'll go down towards Twin Dams, and then we'll take Elephant Carcass again all the way across back towards Treehouse Dam. We'll probably bump into Tristan. Tristan is now, of course, also helping us find the leopards. I hope we find the leopards though, because we've put effort in right in the beginning, and I'm just listening to the radio again, keeping up to date. Tristan is just confirming that we had both male and female sets of leopard tracks, which we have, and Aubrey was also just confirming with Tristan, saying yeah, no, he's also seen the tracks. There are definitely 2 leopards around here somewhere. And then of course there's also those female leopard tracks that go into our camp. Who knows where they end up, and who knows who they belong to. They look quite small, so I'm going to put my money on that's Shongile's tracks. And these female leopard tracks, it was hard to say if they were very small or if they were big. Now, there's all the elephant footprints again, littered in this area, but do you think we can find any? No? Don't be ridiculous. So yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to find them. Let's carry on and have a look. We're looking for a num num plant as well. Now, as we've been driving around, we've been talking about quite a bit about the change of season that's happening at the moment. I was saying that it looks more autumn-like now than it did when it was autumn. The leaves are still green on the trees. And Debbie, you're wondering if we can still see some signs of the drought, or does this look like a normal winter? This is actually a pretty good winter, hey Debbie, I have to tell you. We had late rain, and that late rain definitely helped. It's kept the grass a lot greener. It's a lot taller than what it should be already, and that's why the animals haven't quite made their return just yet. They will. The big herds of elephants, or the elephants are here, and we're just waiting for the buffalo now to make their return, which then means that the lions will be back on the property, hopefully for permanent, well, not permanent, but a couple of months. And they normally do this at this time of the year. But I can't believe we haven't seen any elephants. I've seen a giraffe though. I think it's our same giraffe from this morning, actually. His ossicones are quite similar. And his coloration. And there he is, still eating. No surprise there, though. Absolutely no surprise. No surprise that this giraffe is still munching away. That's what the animals have to do. They've got to do a lot of eating all the time. We didn't actually see him eat. We did we? We did. He took a couple of nibbles this morning, but he was sort of just warming himself up. The oxpeckers were most certainly warming himself up. And we'll have to tell all the guides on the radio that there's a beautiful big giraffe here, because it sounds silly. Normally we only call in high-profile sightings, so things like elephants and buffalo and hippos and lions and leopards and cheetah and wild dogs. Those are the normal sightings that one would call in on the radio. But a giraffe in this area definitely gets called in, just because they're so few and far between. We don't see them all the time. They just seem to be about every now and then. Let me see if I can go forward a little bit and get a better view. Now, he was quite relaxed this morning. He didn't really. Right, so I'm going to keep checking, of course, for leopards, because that's what I'd really like to find all of you this afternoon, is some spotted cats. I'm sure Tristan is looking hard too. But let's go back across to the Mara and see if it's ready for that sun to set.
Maybe this time, hopefully you can hear me. We are on the Puringat Bridge on the Mara River between the Triangle and the National Reserve. Now, we've had a wonderful but sometimes trying day. Basically what Paka did would go puck, 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 and stopped a few times. But fortunately, our dear friends at Silas, we managed to limp into Silas camp, and their mechanic managed to extract about half a litre of water. So, and you know, it's not often I'm in fashion, but I'm very, very fashionable today. I'm wearing the latest de diesel, and of course, unlike diesel that you buy in the shops that costs you many, many dollars, mine is quite cheap. Just spray yourself with a bit of diesel fuel and you'll have that wonderful waft for the rest of the day. Of course, my name is Brent Smith. I have Dangerous Dave Eastaugh on camera, and we're live from Kenya, sitting in the middle of the Mara River. I have lost phone comms, but hopefully they'll be back in a short second. And there we go, we're still on the bridge, and lots of lovely hippos, and not far beyond those hippos, probably 200 meters or so, is the Tanzanian border. And there we go. So the Mara River does go into, oh look, open mouth hippo, hello. Now, of course, that is not a yawn because it's tired. I think that was just more of a little playful display, but a yawning display can be construed as a threat display quite often in hippopotamuses. Oh, lots of hippos here at the...
Hello everybody, sorry about that. There seems to be, unfortunately, some gremlins about in Kenya today. No, not to fear. We're lucky. We're sitting with our friend the giraffe and his mates the oxpeckers, who look gorgeous in this lovely light. That's one of my favorite shots, I think, out there, is to get that beautiful sort of blotches of various colors from the giraffe, and then an oxpecker just sitting up on the mane. And in golden light, well, I feel like we've hit the jackpot this afternoon. And he's so relaxed. We're actually sitting quite close to him. We're probably not more than about 9 feet from him, if even that. Fairly close. Look at that. That's Ferg. He's zoomed out completely, and he cannot fit the entire giraffe into the shot. So he's so relaxed with us. That's actually quite nice. It's not often that we get to have these up close and personal experiences with the giraffe in particular. We're lucky we see them with the elephants and the big cats on regular. That has too many. Almost a regular la 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 la. I must be severely dehydrated or something along those lines. But now he's just moving around to feed on the other side of the tree. Obviously got a bit of tannin in it, so moving on to a part where perhaps it hasn't been affected by the pheromones. But just very nice, just nibbling away. Oh, hello. Now if you could quite kindly spot one of the leopards that are moving around here, giraffe, and let us know when you see it. That would be greatly appreciated. It would be very nice, in fact. You know, when we were sitting this morning and we were gazing at this giraffe and I said that it was staring off into the distance, it wouldn't have surprised me if that leopard actually walked on the road just around the bend, and that's what grabbed his attention, because he was very focused. And then that go-away bird was also shouting, and it was just out of sight for us. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. If only I could speak to the animals. That's still the superpower that I would want first. Before flying, I would totally take up being able to chat to these guys. And look at that long tongue, multi-purposed for eating leaves and also for cleaning your nose. Now, Bree, you've said that this giraffe seems darker than normal for this particular area. Not actually necessarily. The darkest giraffe I've ever seen in my entire life I saw down at Sabi Sabi. Actually, I was on Notton's, another property, and he was completely black. There was very little tan color in his body. And it was actually quite amazing. He's just looking at another vehicle that's arriving in the sighting, so that's what he's staring at. And he was beautiful. But this giraffe I think he's quite young. He's a little bit nervous now. I don't think he's particularly old. I'm just going to ask this vehicle if they can switch their car off. Can you bulala your mova? There we go. Now he'll settle down again, for he just feels a little bit trapped. Not really, because he's got lots of places to go, but sometimes the animals can overreact a little bit. But he's settling down now. Hopefully he starts to eat again. And so, sorry, Bree, no, I don't think he's actually particularly dark at all. I think he's still got quite a way to go. I think even on the show we've seen some really beautiful coloration. But if you have just joined us and you are uncertain about why these giraffe do get dark like this. It's the males. You can see sort of quite dark patternings in a female giraffe too, so it's not just restricted to the males, but it's typically got to do with their testosterone. As they get older, as most animals do, they start producing more and more testosterone, and that enhances the color. Not only with giraffe, we see it in kudu, and we also see it, you see it quite nicely if any of you have ever seen an eland before, an eland, which is the largest antelope in Africa. And you'll notice that they get a lot more dark grey rather than the females, which are a light tan colour, sort of the lighter colours of a giraffe. That's what colour an eland is, or an eland. If you're English, you can say eland, because I sometimes say eland. It's the same thing as wildebeest versus wildebeest. Wonderful. But I think we'll give this giraffe a little bit of space and let him carry on with his day and let the other guests enjoy this beautiful young man. And I'm going to send you across to Tristan. It doesn't seem as though he's found an animal, but he is driving straight into the sun.
Indeed, Taylor, we haven't found too much with heartbeats at this stage, but one's got to be patient and just carry on and forge ahead, and maybe, just maybe, something will happen. It's definitely all the potential for an incredible afternoon out and about, so hopefully we'll be able to find something fairly shortly that will make our afternoon, won't we, Batman? Craig has got his good eyes out, so hopefully we'll be able to see something. And we're checking in areas where nobody has really checked today, I don't think. By the looks of the road itself, there's been very few tracks on this road, and so hopefully we will be able to find something. Now, where did you land? Because there was a very, very pretty bird that just flew over, and now I can't see where it's landed. Let me see if I can't go forward a bit. Craig, do you see it? There was a little bee-eater that flew over the road, and they're one of my favorite birds. They really are very pretty. It's got bright greens. Ah, there it is. Okay, so if you have a look behind there, Craig, you see on that tree, that's dead tree, you see it? There we go. There, you've got it on the right of your frame. Just go in and you'll see it. To the right, right. Up, there we go, that tree. That little, there it just flew. Oh well, it's okay. It just flew off the dead branch itself. Let's just see if maybe, just maybe, it will come back again. Like I say, they are very pretty little birds, and they often do this, is that they'll hawk from varying perches and then they go down and they come back again. Now, the bird that I'm talking about, just so that everybody knows, and I'm sure we have seen them a few times, but those of you that haven't, give me 2 seconds and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. There we go. So it's this little green bird at the bottom, which is called a little bee-eater, and it's because it's the smallest of all of the bee-eaters that we get in this area, and it's got beautiful colors. It's got this sort of emerald green back and tail with this yellow throat, and then a very pale blue eye stripe, which is very, very pretty indeed. And this bee-eater stays all through the winter with us. A lot of our bee-eaters are migratory, like the carmine bee-eater on top here, and varying others that we have. They all move around quite a bit, but the little bee-eater stays through our winter months and provides us with a little bit of color. So they really are a nice bird to watch, and they frantically feed all the time. You find them hawking down and grabbing and back onto the branches again. So in terms of sitting and watching, they're very active birds and really are a lot of fun. But unfortunately, it just flew off before we could really get a proper picture of it, and it hasn't come back, which is not that surprising. But there are a few in this sort of section. I don't know why on this western side of Djuma there seems to be a lot more than when you go towards the Mulawati and even the eastern side. I haven't seen too many of them there, but around Impala Plains, Sandy Patch, Buffelshoek Boundary, this whole western section, there seems to be quite a few of them. John, you're wondering if we get parrots. Well, yes, we do, John. We get one species of parrot here in Sabi Sands called the brown-headed parrots, and I actually saw some yesterday. I think it was yesterday afternoon I saw them, but I will try and keep a lookout and see if I can't find you some this afternoon. Where we are now is a great place for brown-headed parrots. They love these marula trees, so all these sort of deadish trees that we're seeing now, this is the kind of place that you often find them, sitting on the tops of these marula trees. So I'm going to try and see if I can't find you some brown-headed parrots today. That's the only species we get here. If you go up into sort of northern tip of Kruger, then you will get the grey-headed parrot around an area called Punda Maria. You get them there on a big hill that is just behind the camp itself. And then if you go into Zimbabwe, you start to see the mayor's parrot. And down in the sort of southern parts of South Africa is the Cape parrot, which unfortunately their numbers have really declined because, funnily enough, of railway systems. Now, when we first came into South Africa and the settlers started to build our railway systems to start transporting gold and various other things, the scarp forests, which house massive yellowwood populations, which is a type of tree, they were all cut down because the yellowwood made for a very good railway sleeper. And so the habitat for Cape parrots got less and less and less, and now they really are isolated down in the sort of Tsitsikamma forest, which is near Knysna and Plets, which is very famous for its big fire that it had this week, unfortunately. And I hope that area recovers and all the people that were affected are okay and will recover shortly. It really was quite a savage fire that burnt down that area. It was horrible to witness, and I really hope, I have a few friends that are down there, so hopefully they're all okay and that the fires are now out and that their rebuilding process can start, and that they get left alone to be able to do that and not bothered too much by press and varying other things. Right, but back to our sort of parrots here. Like I say, here is a very good area to look for them. All of these trees, and where we're heading, because I want to go towards Galago shortcuts and go check Galago Pan. Where we're heading, there's actually a pair that normally is on a marula tree quite close to the camp, which we're going to go past shortly. So I'm hoping that they will be up there somewhere. But it is the most beautiful afternoon. The light is gold. It's the perfect time for us to find little Shongile perched on a marula tree, sort of in the boughs of the tree, hanging down with that golden light hitting her. So that's what we've got to send out into the world. Positive vibes for a leopard. So Karen, you would say you'd love to see Shongile with a kill. Well, Karen, I think so would I. I can't remember the last time I saw a leopard with a kill on Djuma. And so what I'm busy picturing in my mind is one of these big marula trees that we see on our right hand side here. So one of those with Hosana and Shongile both on a branch each, with a big Impala hanging in the middle. Wouldn't that be a nice sight, and a sight for sore eyes this afternoon? So hopefully with this nice light that we've got, we've set the stage perfectly for our two little stars to make an appearance and to show us. Now, I wonder if any of you have got any suggestions as to where you would like us to check. I said earlier that you can use hashtag Safari Live as to where you think Shongile and Hosana might be lurking. I also would probably is a good idea is for people just to keep checking on the dam cam. It's that time of the day now where potentially these leopards start moving and maybe going and looking for water. And if they've come north from Treehouse Dam, there's not too much water between there and Vuyatela Dam itself, so you never know. Maybe they pop out somewhere in that direction. So it's a good place to look on the dam cam and let us know if you do see anything. There's still no sign of anything on this side. I've checked all the way along Zuri's and just checking Vuyatela access to see if they didn't cross here. But I have a funny, sneaky suspicion that potentially little Shongile is hiding out in... let me think now. Maybe Galago shortcut's going to be better from this side. Now, I'm sorry. Rusty to this afternoon just does not want to go into reverse. And now I've stalled Rusty. Thanks, Rusty. You're being a real treat this afternoon in reverse. I had just now had to fight with Rusty for over a minute trying to get it into reverse. Just doesn't want to go in at all for some reason. So hopefully he'll sort himself out. I had enough trouble with Wendy yesterday, who looks as though she's much better today. So we had a stern talking to Wendy during the night, and then Connor came and had a little look at her and helped her out a bit, and it seems like she's doing much better today, which is fantastic news. Some life and some signs of life. Hello, little crested francolins. No, don't run off the road. It seems like it's going to be one of those afternoons where my francolins are going to run off the road, and there they went. Monique, you say let's look in the trees. Well, Monique, that's a fine idea. I think I shall definitely do that. I've been trying to scan all along as we've gone in all the marula trees that look like likely leopard places. It's amazing how some trees just look much more leopard-like than other trees. There's certain trees that you think, well, that's where if I was a leopard, I would go into. And so I've been scanning, Monique, and hopefully we'll be able to see it and see a leopard, like I say, dangling its tail from one of these beautiful big marulas.